so that they want these panels actually manufactured within Ontario. So thus has generated quite a large PV market within Ontario. That's where our panels are coming out of. The manufacturer it's actually called CSUN, and that's a Chinese manufacturer of the product. I'm sure there's someone that will wait to ask the question of what the cost is in terms of coming down. It's always one, you know, biding your time of, you know, when to strike. I've been with WSE for 2 years now, and originally when I started, the price was around $8 to $9 a watt. Now it's just a rough purchase price, or sales price. So now you can roughly say you're selling that $4 to $4.50 a watt. So there's been a substantial in 2 years. I've seen projections of about 15% a decrease over the next year in prices. So it will be coming down, and as Canada's market grows, it will definitely push the prices down and the technology down. There will be, I guess, a threshold to the installation price. Not going to become cheaper to install. Your man hours, you know, it's a labor market aren't going to come down. But what will come down, I guess, is the technology pricing, probably even out within there.
Well, the scale of the Canadian market's only 1/10 of the American, so basically the American market's going to drive the price anyways, right?
I'm not sure on that one. We noticed a lot of people picking up companies and moving them. For example, Keiko, which is the manufacturer of the inverter, is now stationing the manufacturing plant within Ontario, I think, to open up in March of 2011. So I'm not sure what will happen there. Obviously, the green initiatives that come out of the States will drive a big part of the price. A question that's been asked a few times is being a content rule in Ontario, can it compete in the bigger market? So will our prices remain a little higher because we have to have a manufactured product within Canada to actually install in Ontario? Whereas if there's no content rules, say down south, we get tons of phone calls with guys saying, you know, I've just went online and I've seen a panel that I can buy in California for $1.25. So will that affect our market here? I'm not sure if it will or not. But from Ontario's perspective, it won't. Yeah.
What will it cost if you have to put your panels away from the house and put them on a rack away from the house?
In terms of the mounting system goes there. I think you guys actually have done a rigid mount on the ground.
Just the cabling cost would it not?
Yeah.
And the racking.
Yeah, the racking and
Yeah.
I mean, basically creating that base structure, whether it be a cement foundation or a metal foundation, would be essentially, you can look at that as the same cost of supplying a roof for them too. They're supplying the medium for the installer to put stuff on. So that would be my guess, the only major increased cost, and that's something I wouldn't know.
Is there a difference in the efficiency of the inverters? Like, is there different styles of inverters, and is there different efficiencies associated with it?
Yes. That comes back to the microinverter versus
Well, so you mean there's
inverter.
two schools of thought on this
Yeah.
inversion process?
So in the last, microinverters, I believe, been around since the 70s. And in the last year and a half, 2 years, they've experienced a great growth in the market. Typically a product called Enphase. And it's what it allows is the panels to be somewhat, if there is shading issues to happen within it. So you had 2 panels and one hooked up, and there's to get basically a tree or something like that to shade it. It would affect both of the panels. What a microinverter does is allows to optimize this panel. It has maximum output, and then this one they treat it as separate. Whereas an inverter, ours here is two arrays of 9 panels each. So
in other words, the microinverter is able to isolate the individual panels then?
So whereas we've got one central inverter up here, there would be 18
Yeah.
up on the roof. And these gentlemen, I guess both have done a microinverter install. I think they've done both, you know, typical inverters and microinverters. So they've got a good idea of the pros and cons, and that comes down to more for the installation guys of what they feel works best. And you guys have any comments on the microinverters versus inverters?
I think it's fair to say if you have a lot of shading issues, that the microinverters, in terms of performance, have a little bit of a performance advantage. If you don't have any shading issues, then I think the difference is mostly observability, like how well you can monitor your system. And cost comparison, it used to be the microinverters were more expensive. I haven't followed it. It's pretty close in cost if you look at the entire system cost.
Like 25 cents, I think, difference.
And then
traditional.
The other thing is the expandability. Like Lee was saying that if Ron came up with room, say he wanted to put a 3 panel awning over top of his door here, it would be very difficult to add 3 panels to the existing system.
Whereas with the micro, you can just add on units as you want, right?
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the technology is changing very quickly. I wouldn't even venture a guess how many net metering projects are within Saskatchewan for PV. You guys might have been the first 2 or 3.
In Saskatoon.
In Saskatoon here. So I mean, it's a relative, very new market in regards to dealing with the local utilities and professionals within the market.
Does the city itself allow net metering within its power area, or is it just Sask Power in the newer areas of the city?
You guys know that one?
So technically, no, the city of Saskatoon does not allow net metering, but what they do allow is you to be a private power producer, and they pay you, I think it's 9.5 cents a kilowatt hour for everything you push back on their grid, and they charge you 13 cents a kilowatt hour for everything you take off. But one advantage that City of Saskatoon program has is I can push more onto the grid than I can consume. So I can put a really big array and sell it all to the city and they'll take it all. Whereas Sask Power never gives you money, they just give you a credit for what you put on. And that credit expires after 1 year if you haven't consumed what you put on the grid.
So a properly sized system, which is a lot different than, you know, the people that are like the Ontario microgrid program, who would be more like Brent's house there, whereas they're not looking to size the PV against their consumption. They're looking to maximize the amount of space that they can produce because they're getting paid very well for the power that they put back on the grid. One thing Brent, I guess, kind of alluded to is that monitoring system. We'll have ours set up here. Basically, Ron wants to be set up so he's monitoring not only his lights and his total power consumption here on the screen against his power production. So that's still in the works. Fancy things like, I guess, neat as Google has a Google Power Meter, which I believe you guys are hooked up to. So that's a resource that's available for free online that allows you to look at what your production is in real time.
Are there any structural issues with the panels? Like, do you have to increase the structure of your roof to support the weight, or are they heavy?
It's not so much the weight that would be a concern, it's where the systems lie. So, you know, as you're leaving, you can take a look at the panels. Basically, they're mounted, you know, this way with 2 rails that run the length of them. Where those rails penetrate the roof is, I guess, the biggest concern. So making sure you get something structural within it. You know, that's pretty much a fixed length or a fixed width there. So you can't really move them around depending on where it is. So on this house, they came in after the design was done, and basically the roof was on. Had ended up putting might have been even 2x10s all the way along, so that when installers came in, that they could hit a structural member within that system.